yet. Now we're ready and we are live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Positive Power Hour.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, yeah, yay. And I know we'll have people signing up here very soon, but it's wonderful to be here tonight. I have to apologize to each and every one of you, my guests that are on the call tonight, and those of you that might be watching on the replay later on the YouTube channel. But I made a mistake. Yes, I made a mistake. My wife loves baseball, and I wanted her to experience Angel Stadium, and we wanted to do it on an Angel Dodger game, which is what they used to call the Freeway Series. So I booked tickets for her to see the Dodgers at Angel Stadium, and didn't realize until a few days before, a few days after, that was our Monday and that was our Power Hour. But I had already bought the tickets and we already had all the arrangements, so please forgive me. But we had a great time, and I'm glad to be here tonight.
Yes.
So far we haven't had anyone comment yet. I'm sure people will show up at some point. I want to take a few minutes to talk about a little something in a bit, but I want to make sure we've got some people on board to begin with, right?
Right. I have some positive information.
Oh, always love that.
Richard's back to playing baseball.
Yay, good for him. Yay.
Yeah. So he's happy.
And when are they making their big trip?
That's in June.
In June. Okay, so he's got a couple months to go for that, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. And that is good news. And so his finger, was it his thumb or a finger? Well, I forgot.
A finger.
A finger.
Yeah.
So it's all healed and all back to normal, and he can resume normal play, I guess.
Yep.
Right?
No pain.
And that's kind of a reminder to all of us, once again, that when we have things that don't go the way we want, you and I were just talking about that before we started, right? Is that everything is going to change, no matter what it is. If the real estate market is going gangbusters, you can be sure at some point it's not going to go gangbusters. If you're on a losing streak and it seems like everything you touch just turns to doo-doo, that's going to change and everything will turn to gold, right?
This too shall pass.
Yeah, if you're in sales and sales are slumping and it doesn't seem like you can close anything and you feel like the biggest loser in the world, you have to remember that tomorrow you're going to close everything and you won't have any idea how you did it. It just kind of went that way, right?
Yeah.
And that's really the way life works. Nothing is so serious that it deserves to take away your peace of mind and your happiness.
That's
right. And, as I say on our show quite often, I'm into short-term suffering. I don't believe in, like I've mentioned on our show before about the fact that, I'll ask people, how's your day going? And somebody will say, oh, I'm having a horrible day. And I'll say, really? The whole day? Right? No.
Kimberly's here.
Yes. Hi, Kimberly. Glad you're here. Yay. Welcome aboard. Sorry about last week. I was sharing with everybody that I had made a mistake. It was a mistake. I booked baseball tickets at Angel Stadium for Kate to see Angel Stadium and to see the Dodgers play the Angels. And I had totally spaced on the fact that I had booked it on a Monday. So please forgive me. I want to be here every single Monday, but just like we were just talking about, stuff happens. And so we'll get it on board again. Yeah, and we did have a great time, and the Dodgers won too, so that made it even better.
Well.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes, right?
Darn it, Angels.
Yeah. All right, so I wanted to share a little something that happened to me this week. Actually, it was last week. And it's going to sound awfully negative and awfully dark, and I apologize for that, but I promise you there's a story behind it that's important for all of us, okay? As I've mentioned on here, I work a job currently at Best Buy, and I'm their cashier, and I'm like their only cashier during the day. And I told the story before about the young lady that bought something, and she stood there and she stared at me for a little bit, and then she said, I'm waiting for a call from my doctor to tell me if I had cancer, right? And I thought, what a wonderful way God worked in bringing bringing her to the perfect person to talk to her about cancer, right? Been there, done that. So this last week, I had a young couple, very young couple, come in and buy a whole bunch of Pokemon cards. I'm assuming that most of you in the audience here knows what those are, but they are a big seller in Best Buy. We sell a ton of those things.
Wow.
And this woman had bought like 20 or 30 of them, which is a pretty good size purchase, right? And as I'm ringing up the purchase, I said, so you're a collector? And she goes, well, no, actually, I'm buying these to take to a celebration of life event that I have to go to. I said, oh, what happened? A friend of ours was a Pokemon collector. He loved collecting cards. And he had come to me about a week ago and told me that he was gay and that he wanted to come out to his parents. And what did he think what did I think he should do? And she said, my advice to him was that he would never be free if he was living in the closet. That to be free, you have to be who you are, and people will understand. He said, okay, well, that makes sense. So he went home and he told his parents that he was gay, and they told him to pack his shit and get out. And they will never talk to him again. And he killed himself. Yeah. Tough story, right?
Yeah.
But it's a example for all of us about how our actions can impact other people.
Yes.
Right? And his parents are going to have to live with that guilt the rest of their lives, that they chose their religious beliefs or even whatever their beliefs are about being gay or homosexuality or whatever word you want to use for it, being more important than the love for their son. And they're going to have to live with that. And he's gone. That's not going to change, right? But as you know, Nicole, I've had a number of gay friends through my life. And to me, they're just people. I mean, but the difficulty they go through to live a life that is not what is socially acceptable is tremendously difficult. And you would hope that your own family has enough compassion and understanding to just say, you're my son, I love you, and all I want you to do is be happy, right? You would think that is what we would all want for our children. And hello, Jose, I'm glad you're on board. Yay! So it was a tough story, right? And I mentioned to her, I said, yeah, his parents are never going to get past that. So that was the story I wanted to share tonight. And the reason why it's important for all of us, again, is to remember that words matter, right? Being unforgiving matters. It may not seem like it's that big of a deal. And I hear all the time people saying, oh, you're all so soft. You can't even say anything anymore. Well, there's an example of why, right? So when you have that time where maybe you're looking at somebody that's different than you and you got that little thought in your head, like, geez, look at that person, right? Kind of remember that story, right? And how wonderful it was that they did a celebration of life for him, that his friends who did love him and cared about him, as I'm sure his parents do, they just really made a bad choice as to which way to look at a particular situation, right?
Yes.
And we've all done that in one way or another, right? We're all human. We've all done stupid things that we wish we hadn't done. And, we have to get over it, forgive ourselves and move forward, right? And we hope that the parents of that young man can forgive themselves and move on, right?
Yes.
And perhaps they might get involved in parenting classes for parents that are having a difficult time with gay children, right? Maybe they've got a different perspective of it now than they had before, right? So, it's in many ways, we live in a very intolerant world today. And no matter what your view is on anything, that's more important than anybody else's view and all that kind of stuff. And I hope we break the fever of that at some point and realize that we are all children of God.
Yes.
No matter what your skin color is, no matter what your sexual preference is, no matter where you came from, no matter whether you're rich or poor, or whether you're depressed or you're manic or whatever you got going on in your life, you're still a human being, and God created you just as He created me and He created Nicole. He did a much better job with Nicole than He did with me, but hey, that's another.
No, but I do want to give some props to our family because we are very, very loving and open to all. And, there's not, even thinking of, well, I'm talking about our immediate family. I don't know about the rest too much, but, my kids and you and my grandkids. And I mean, just so loving and open. And, our family, I couldn't imagine anyone having that response to hearing that news in our family.
Right, exactly. Well, and as we were talking about that, I was thinking about how happy and joyous all of the children are, right? And the reality is, you hear people saying that they're afraid of us losing our freedom. From what? The reality is the prison that you're afraid of is the one with yourself, right? When you are judgmental, the color of a person's skin or their sexuality, which has nothing to do with you, is more important. Your view on it is more important than them living their own lives. Then you're really in a hell of your own making.
Yeah.
Right? And how can you ever be joyous, happy, and free if all you're doing is judging everyone and everything, right? I had my own example this week of that kind of thing. One of my pet peeves is how companies treat their employees. And see, he's got his opinion on it too, doesn't he?
Sorry, guys, it's live. It's my dog.
That's all right. And so tell them who that is.
That's Emma and Teddy. That's
Teddy?
my dogs.
Yeah. And they're wonderful dogs. But I've had this pet peeve about how most companies don't know how to treat their employees. They would rather ridicule them and use fear to get them to do what they want them to do. Yep. Rather than motivating them and helping them to grow and expand who they are as people. Then you've got a really awesome employee, right? So that's always been my pet peeve. And I get frustrated when I'm in an environment where, they say, well, if you don't get better, we're going to write you up. Well, and exactly how does that motivate, right? How does that make you a better employee if you're operating your whole day in fear of getting fired? You're going to do something that causes you to get fearful and fired. It's just natural. But that's my thing. That's the way I look at it. And for me to think that everybody else should already know how to treat people the right way is just as prejudiced and just as narrow-minded and myopic as judging somebody because they're brown or they're black or they're gay or they're female or they're overweight or they're too skinny or whatever the things are, right? Everybody's doing the best they can with what they know. And that's what I forget sometimes. I think that my boss should know how to treat people the right way. Well, who taught him? I don't know. Right? Who taught me? I don't know. It's just what I had from a very early age was the understanding that motivating people worked much better than intimidating people. To me, it just kind of makes sense. Does it, maybe I'm just a little off, right? Well, we all know that. But but doesn't it make sense that if you help somebody feel better about themselves, they're going to be more motivated in helping you achieve what it is you want to achieve in the company or in the position or in the job, whatever it is. It just seems so simple to me. And yet, throughout my working career, I experienced companies that just didn't even get close to understanding that, right? So that's my pet peeve. And I recognized a couple weeks ago that I was allowing my view of how they should do things to affect my happiness. So I wasn't punishing them, I was punishing me. And I couldn't see it for a while, right? But then one day I went, wait a minute. It's just like, in any retail business, what they always want to push is extended warranties, right? Oh, because that's their most profitable area. And most, like Best Buys, they work on a very thin margin on profits on computers and printers and all those things. There's not a big margin. So where they really make up for it is in these extended warranties. So the big push is get everybody to get an extended warranty and get what we call Total Tech. And they're both wonderful programs. They really and truly are. But but I would think that some people, well, they're not going to want that for $20. Well, who am I to judge what they want to have? I'm not the moral police. If they want to buy, they have this lease thing, which I really wish people wouldn't do, right? But I'm not the moral police, and I'm not the financial police, and I'm not the one to determine what decisions they make in their life. My job is to present it to them, and if they want it, I'll help them get it, right? Yeah. And until I could get past that attitude, I was the one that was miserable, and I was the one that was in a bad position in my job because I wasn't doing what they wanted me to do, which is what they paid me for, right? So a simple little thing like that, I could allow to disturb my peace and happiness, not them. Right. But see, that goes back to what we talk about all the time, right? There we go, right? When you're pointing your finger at somebody, you got 3 of them coming right back at you, right? And so when I'm judging them because they want me to do something that to me is not right, shame on them, and I'm the judge, I guess, right? God. So you see, it happens all the time, and it doesn't matter whether you're 18 or 28 or 38 or 88 or whatever your years are here on this planet. You're going to find situations within yourself that you don't like, right? If you're fortunate enough to have the awareness of recognizing what it is you're doing that's making you unhappy, then you can change it. But when it's always their fault, if I'd be happy if only you would do this, right? Or if only you looked at it my way, if only you were white instead of brown or black or Chinese or Asian or whatever the thing is, then everything would be perfect, right? And that's why we always talk about it. It's an inside job, right? It's an inside job. Nobody out there is deliberate. Well, there might be a few people out in the world who really love it when you're miserable, but it's not very many people, and it's not very often, right? The vast majority, and there's a place I know of that uses this phrase quite often, is that we've come to discover that the root of most of our problems are ourselves, right? And I'm paraphrasing. I know I don't have it right, but our problems are of our own making. That's what it is. Our problems are of our own making. The world is doing what the world's going to do. People are going to do what people do. Events are going to happen in life, births and deaths. And by the way, we have a new addition to the family. You want to make that announcement for us, Nicole?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
My little grandnephew.
Yes. And what's his name?
Oh, Xander.
Xander. That's right. That's right. I saw him on Facebook today. He's such a handsome young man, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
congratulations.
Yes.
I don't know if they're on, but if they watch it, congratulations, Papa Joe.
We love all of you very much. Look forward to seeing you at some point. But yes,
and Alex and Frankie.
Yes, they're a very, very beautiful couple, and now in addition to the family, it makes them even more beautiful. Yes, and there's Melly joining us too. Congratulations. So for those of you that have joined on late, I'd love for you to see the beginning of the show about a little story that we told. I'm not going to rehash it because it's such a, it seems like a tough story, right? But the reality is it's a good story because it helps us all to remember how important being non-judgmental is. And just like I was just talking about, me judging them because they don't know how to manage right? And judging them because they put stuff in the way of an aisle or whatever the thing is. Well, who am I to do that, right? And yet I'll do it. It's like, my goodness.
Well, they talk about acceptance, right? When you're accepting of all things, it makes your life so less chaotic, so much more manageable, so much peace gets involved, and acceptance doesn't mean that you agree with it,
right?
Or that it's what you would do. It's just accepting that that's what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Right.
It's, and my old mentor, George, would always say that life is really simple. We just complicate it.
Yes. True.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is get up in the morning, give life some love, be of service to others, and have a good time.
Yeah.
It's really not complicated. Right. Yeah. So I've started this thing, and Melly, I'm glad you're helping Richard with a school project. And that's always more important than even we are, right?
Man, first day back at school, he had spring break the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's got a school project.
Oh, yeah, he's such a special young man. He really is. So that's what we were talking about tonight is acceptance, right? And that poor parents, and I'll just say it real quickly. There was a young man who went to his parents to tell him that he was gay, and the parents disowned him. And so he went out and killed himself. Pretty tough, right?
Yeah.
And they were having a celebration. His friends were having a celebration of life for him. And because one of the things he loved was Pokemon cards. And we sell a ton of Pokemon cards. And this young couple, she was actually the one that said that he should go home and tell his parents because he'd never feel free if he didn't, right? And their reaction was just as bad as it could have possibly been. And he chose to end it.
Yeah.
And we don't realize how that little smirk we give to maybe somebody who's obese that's eating a hamburger and French fries, that little look we give them like, oh, geez, right? Or, crossing the street when a black person is walking next to you or coming from the other direction because you're afraid they might be, a gangster or whatever, right? All of those little things that we do affect other people. And it's not necessarily politically correct, and it's not because we're wusses and we don't have a backbone and we're not free to say what we really want to say. Well, think about it, right? Think about what we're just talking about here is that we've done this to every kind of race on earth since the beginning of the United States anyway, and probably before then, where we had to kill the Indians because we wanted their land and they're savages, don't you know? And then we had to imprison Chinese or the Japanese because of war or whatever, the internment camps that we had. We shunned the Irish because they're just drunks, which we all know that's true. But but we do this over and over and over, and we don't learn our lessons, right? We're all children of God, and we all deserve to have a good life. Every parent, the thing they want more than anything else, excuse me, just like Melinda just said, sorry, I'm helping Richard with the school project. Because all of us parents want the best for our children. And it doesn't matter what your race is, or what your religion is, or what your education is, or income level is. We all want the best for our children. That's what everybody wants, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or whatever. It doesn't matter. We all want basically the same thing. If we're sick, we want to be able to go someplace and get quality care. That should be a human right, as far as I'm concerned, right? And everybody has a right to practice whatever religion works for them. But also, if you're following a religion, make sure that it fits for you, that it has the values that are important to you, right? Because there are some out there that have some pretty screwed up ideas about what's important in life, right?
Yes.
So we all have to be responsible. And this goes back again to what we talk about all the time, Nicole, is that we all have to be responsible for our own lives, our own thinking, our own feelings, our own actions. It's not because of you, right? It's because of me. Like I talked about already here today, right? That my views on how they were doing things made me unhappy.
Yeah.
Why do I want that, right?
Right.
So that's what we all need to look at. And when we take that self-responsibility, we recognize, and I know that you've had this experience, Nicole, I'm sure you have, is that when you start changing the way you think, you start feeling happier and freer. And life is, what's that? The sunlight of the spirit starts to kick in, right? You start feeling more loving towards everybody and everything. And what you focus your attention on changes, right? And you can recognize that some people's action is only because they're sick. Because people that were thinking right wouldn't do those things that they do, right? It's like seeing somebody on the street that's homeless. And you think, what, are they lazy? Or are they mentally ill? Or are they drug addicts? Or what is it? Nobody in their right mind wants to sleep on the streets. I don't think. Not in their right mind, right?
Right.
But maybe. But at the same time, I can still treat them as human beings.
Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. Live, right? Facebook Live. So I'm looking for some comments in here. Anybody have any examples they would like to share about how a thought process that you have kind of lived with perhaps all your life, you've been able to look at and go, wait a minute, that's not the way I want to do things. That's me judging them, right? And again, when we post on the comment section here, folks, your comments are something somebody else can grow from. It might be just what they need to hear that moment to help them in some way. So I want to encourage all of you, your thoughts and feelings are more important than mine are. They really are, because there's just me and Nicole, and she makes, she lets me do all the talking, which
I just might.
yeah. And she sits there and looks pretty all night, right?
No, but
But
I understand. Maybe
yeah,
this might give it a little clarity, like um on some of my inventories, I go through like ideals, right? What are my ideas of things like, oh, they should have same-sex marriages. That's not one of mine. I mean, they shouldn't have them, is what some people say,
shouldn't
right?
have
So
what?
that's an example.
Shouldn't have what?
Okay, the idea that marriage should be between a man and a
Oh, man and
woman.
woman. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I can write down an inventory and go through it and see why is that something that I want to carry on in my life? No. Love is love, and who you choose
Yeah,
is who you choose.
yeah.
But those are things that I can look at, right? And
Right.
or like growing up in, I don't know, trying to think of ideas. Brain fog.
Hey, that's all right. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I've shared this before on our show, but working in all the Best Buys that I work in, I work with a lot of young kids, right? And I was sharing with a group of them one day that I used to say things about Black people that I would never think of saying today, right? And it was just stuff that I heard as a kid, and I just would repeat it, right? And nowadays, I would never think of saying those things. And one of the young men said, "Well, yeah, that's because you evolved." And he was right. I mean, what a brilliant little statement from a young man, right? You evolved. I said, "Yeah, that's exactly right." And it's one of my things I get to talk about quite often in my job is that wisdom is not exclusive to how old you are. It doesn't mean that when you're 70, you become really wise. Because I know a lot of people in their 70s that are just really
Just kidding.
you mean
Just
this way,
kidding.
right? that just haven't, evolved much, right? And so it's not about age. It's about the willingness to open up and
Yes.
examine yourself and look at what's working for you and what isn't, right? It's like one of my favorite things I'm doing these days is when parents come up with their kids to buy Pokemon cards. First of all, I'll ask the kids if these are their parents' cards. And some of them will go, "Those are for your dad, right?" "Yeah." I said, "Okay." And others will go, "No, those are mine." Right? So you can just see the different kind of personalities, right? And then I'll ask them all if they're having fun today. And if they didn't get what they wanted before they got into the checkout stand, they'd be really grumpy and going, "Well, not right now," right? And others would be, "Yeah, I'm having a good time." And I said, "Good," because it's a rule. You have to have fun every day, right? And every once in a while, I'll say, "And your mom, she has fun too, but she doesn't let you see. She's out dancing when you're not looking, and she's just laughing and singing and just having a good old time," right? And I do that because it makes kids smile.
Yeah.
And it makes the parents smile and lighten up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And that's fun for me, right? So I'm working, it's kind of a strenuous job. It's not stressful, it's strenuous because it's just a constant parade of people going through my stand every day, right? But I make it fun. I make it fun by, making the kids smile, by getting the parents to smile, right? And by a little self-deprecating humor, because y'all know how much I love self-deprecating humor. One of my favorite things is to tell them that I've been married to my wife for 30 years and that woman has a high pain tolerance. Yep.
Way up there.
Yeah. So I do those things because it makes people feel better. And that feeds my soul.
Yes.
Right. I do it. And I tell them, I said, if I don't ask you if you want this extended warranty, your answer is always going to be no. And if I don't ask you if you would like the extended warranty, I'm out of a job. So So understand, it's nothing personal. I'm not trying to, make you do anything. I'm just giving you the options, right?
Yes.
And it kind of helps to calm all that down too. That constant pitch that you get when you go into a store to buy anything nowadays, right? They're all trying to add something to your shopping cart. So that's the gist of our story today. Really is about how being unaccepting of others can have such a huge consequence, both to the other person, but if we're being totally honest, it's really difficult on ourselves.
Yes.
And there is the example of the parents who couldn't just say, it doesn't matter to me, I love you, right? And the young couple who came in to buy cards for the celebration day, who has to live with the fact that she suggested to him that he go home and talk to his parents.
Yeah. She had no idea, though.
Right, of course not. But what do we do as human beings when those kinds of things happen? We
internalize
beat ourselves up forever for it, right? Which only makes that whole experience worse. And you all know how I feel about the beatings will continue until our attitude improves, right? And we don't help anybody by beating ourselves up.
No.
Right? Our immediate family suffers because you're disconnected now. You're so self-consumed with that mistake you made that you can't be there for anybody. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. And haven't we all done that?
We've all made mistakes, yes.
Yeah, and haven't we all beaten ourselves up and really disconnected ourselves from life, really?
Yeah, really,
Because we're so consumed with that mistake we made, right? So again, that's the point of the Positive Power Hour, is to bring ourselves back to that positive point as quickly as we can, to let go of the, what's that old saying about, get off the cross, we need the wood, right? Because
put down the bat and pick up a feather.
Yeah, because we want to get back to the positive as quick as we can. We all going to have those moments where we're like, damn, I wish I hadn't done that, right? Yeah. And then we, as quickly as we can, we need to say, it's okay. You can't change that now. Right. Just resolve to do better. And the more you practice that, it's like everything else. If you practice good behavior, you're going to have good behavior, right? Yes. And if you're practicing things that don't make you feel good about yourself, you're not ever going to build a good self-esteem. You build a good self-esteem by doing esteemable things.
Yes.
And treating yourself at least as well as you would treat a stranger. You wouldn't walk up to a stranger and pinpoint everything you think he's done wrong in his life, right?
No.
Why do you do that to yourself? It doesn't make sense, right?
We are our harshest critics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do what do they call it? When you're going to talk about a movie, they give you a notice.
Review. A review.
No, it's where it's like an alert that we're about to, a disclosure alert that we're about to talk about a movie. Oh, so if you don't want to hear about it, tune out for a minute or two, because I'm going to talk about the movie with, oh goodness gracious, what was the name? Otto.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler alert. That's it. Who got that? Did you get it? You got it. All right. A spoiler alert.
Let's see that. Kimmy got it too.
Let's see what Jose has to say here. When I first started this new job, I judged people in the way they did their job. It stressed me out along with having to do my job. I realized I can't change the way people do their job, but I can change the way I take on my job. Instead of being so judgmental of my coworkers, focus solely on my job while being kind to them.
Awesome, Jose.
Awesome. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That is perfect. Yes. And The reality is you felt a lot better, and they probably didn't have a clue that you thought they were doing a crappy job on their job. So you changed you.
Win-win.
But and here's even more important, even though, yes, you changed you, you said it right here. Instead of being so judgmental of my coworkers, focus solely on my job while being kind to them. Because you can't think negatively about somebody and treat them kindly. It doesn't work, right?
It usually comes out as sarcasm or passive aggression.
That look, right?
Yeah.
And so you are changing people around you when you change yourself. It's amazing. It's like I talk about all the time on our show here, is that life is an inside job. How you feel inside yourself will be demonstrated out in the world for you, right? You're froze, Nick. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you froze for a second.
Oh.
But yeah, it's, it really, really works, right? It's like I had, I'm a recovering alcoholic and I'm an entrepreneur, right? Both of those kinds of people don't like authority and they don't take direction very well, because don't you know, we know a better way, right? So I've always had this thing with bosses that, don't tell me, just let me do my job and leave me alone, right? And so I had that attitude with one of my bosses, and I recognized it, just like Jose is talking about here. And I recognized it. And I took him aside and I said, hey, I just want you to know I really like you. And I'm really not, this isn't the environment I was expecting when I came in here. So I'm going to work on changing my attitude, because this place isn't going to change. It's the way it is, and it's not going to be any different. You and I both know that. But I want you to know that I don't hold you personally responsible. You're just doing your job, and I get it, right? And I'll quit being a grumpy old man, okay? Well, the other day, yesterday, as a matter of fact, we were crazy busy. And I went 5 hours without a break or a lunch break. And that's a bozo no-no. You're not supposed to do that, right? But that's not my responsibility as far as I'm concerned. That's their responsibility to have my back when I'm swamped with customers, to make sure they bring somebody over to relieve me so I can take a break. But that didn't bother me. It was like, okay, we're busy, and they'll get to it when they can get to it, or maybe there'll be a point where we're not swamped with customers and I can ask them for a break, right? So we finally had that little point where there was a little break in the action, and I went to my boss and I said, hey, if you got somebody that can cover for me, could I get a lunch break? And he looked at me and says, you haven't had a lunch break yet? It's been 5 hours. I said, yeah, I know. He goes, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I said, hey, I'm not upset, right? I'm not upset. It's okay. We've been swamped, crazy busy, and I get it. I did reach out to several, I reached out to ask somebody several times, and either they were busy or I got customers that walked up right then. So I never got to ask, but I could really use a break, right? He goes, oh my God, yes. And so I took my lunch break. And then when I came back, he took me aside. He goes, I feel so horrible about that. You deserve better than that. And I'm so sorry. And I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen again. That's just awful. Well, if I had held that negative view of him, that energy, right? We talked about that customer of mine, that friend of mine who had one leg amputated and was getting refooted for a new prosthesis, right? And he was pissed off at the doctor because the doctor couldn't get it right. And he says, what? And I said, well, you keep going in there angry, and you're upset when the doctor makes a mistake, because of course he's going to make a mistake. He's nervous that you're so angry, right? He said, but I haven't told him that. I said, yeah, but he can feel that, right? Exactly what we're talking about here. If I still felt, he's not treating me right, he'd have felt that, right? And I said to him, I'm not angry. I'm not upset at all. We were all just really busy. I get it. I just wanted to get a lunch break, right? And when I got back from lunch, he apologized again, right? And again, that shows what happens when we change ourselves. Just like Jose says here. Instead of being judgmental of how they're doing their jobs, I just focused on doing my job and being kind to them. And what a awesome, when you work that way and when you think that way, Jose, it affects every relationship in your life. Can you see how it would do that?
Yeah.
Because now you're looking at everybody that way, right? You know, your mom is the perfect mom, right? She's never made a mistake. And you know, your grandpa, he's just absolutely perfect, right? Yeah, of course not. None of us are. But when we can focus on becoming better ourselves rather than looking at what they don't do so well, the energy changes.
Yes.
And when your energy changes, everything.
Yeah. If you want to change the world, what are you going to do? It starts by changing my perception of things.
Exactly right.
Yes.
Exactly right. And all of us are exactly where we are today because of our own thinking. The way we think.
Yeah.
Huh?
You see
Mom's
Jose's
perfect.
comment.
Papa, not so
I'll
much.
pay you later.
Yes, your mom is perfect. She really is. And Kimberlyn says, "Boiler." Oh, that was for that movie, right?
You got it.
Well,
Yeah.
back to the movie. All right, so we're going to talk about the movie Otto.
Okay.
If you haven't seen it and you want to see it, yep, turn away for a little bit. But it was a wonderful, you know, what's the actor's name?
Forrest Gump guy, right?
Forrest Gump guy, yeah. He stars in it. He's always in these kinds of movies, right? Heartfelt and, you know, and he plays a character named Otto, who's just a grumpy old man. And, you know, he's a get off my lawn kind of guy. And, you know, he just hates the world and everyone in it. And you're thinking, what is wrong with this guy, right? And there's a young couple that move in with children, and you know, and they ask him for help, and he just kind of sloughs them off, and leave me alone, you know. And then we get to find out that the love of his life died, carrying their baby.
Oh.
Yeah. And he couldn't get past it.
Understandably.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about that, again, when you're looking at meaning, right, and how things affect, you can understand how, having lost the love of his life, and they had a beautiful relationship, and then having this baby, and it was a car accident, and you know, just the most tragic way to something like that to go, consumed him.
Yeah.
And this young family coming into his life gave him that aha moment.
Mm.
And he says it in the movie. He says, you know, I just realized that I've shut myself off to the entire world because of something that happened in my past. And I've forgotten that the whole reason for being here is to give to others. So he spent the rest of his life doing things to enrich those people around him, right? And he ended up dying of a heart that was too big.
Ah.
How perfect, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to share that story before, but I wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to see the movie that wanted to see it, right?
Yeah, I don't need to see it now, huh?
Right. But it was such a great example to me about how, and I see it so often, people that are really locked in an experience of their life that has permanently changed or stopped, any growth in their life. Whether it's a car, I've told the story here about the car accident that a woman has tears pouring down her face describing this accident, right? And I'm thinking it just happened a month ago or something. It happened 5 years ago, whatever, right? But to hold on to it that strongly that you're still crying over it 5 years later is benefiting who? Nobody. Nobody, right? But she thinks she has to hold on to it, right? So we all have our stories like that, right? We all have the things that we've done that maybe we think are so stupid or so bad that we have to beat ourselves for the rest of our life for it, right? Or things that events that have happened that were so tragic that we can't seem to live past.
Yeah.
I remember in a meeting one day, a couple that were just devastated about the death of their grandson. And one of them talked about how, I don't know if I can go on because the grief is so heavy, right? And I said, no, you have to go on in honor of your grandson.
Yeah.
I mean, how awful would it be that because of his passing, you've done something even worse, right? So the best way we can honor our loved ones is to live a good life and in their honor, right? And it makes all the difference in the world. So, no, it was kind of a heavy talk tonight, but I think, again, it's a reminder for all of us to pay attention to our judgmental stuff, right? Like Jose said right here, he realized that he was being judgmental of his coworkers. He judged them and the way they did their job. And we all play judge, jury, and executioner in our own lives, right? With people that don't think the way we do, or don't look the way we do, or don't dress the way that we do, or whatever the differences are, we'll use that as a way of putting ourselves up and putting them down. Makes us feel more superior, right? So today, let's remember to stay positive. Let's pay attention to our judgmentals, right? Because we all have them. You know, I would love to say that I've gotten rid of all of my judgmental stuff, but I'm sure it's an absolute lie, right? If I'm being honest, I know we all, we'll have things to work on until our last breath here on earth, right? And we'll still have more to do.
Except for those perfect people.
Yes, like you. Yes, that's true. Mom's perfect. Says that right here. Yeah,
I got it in writing. Let me take a screenshot of it.
Huh?
Let me take a screenshot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's go ahead. Get that. There you go. There it is. But you're all perfect.
Yes.
Right? You're all perfect. Just the way you are. Just the way I am. I'm perfect just the way I am. I'm always striving to be better.
Yes.
But the difference is today for me, I really like who Dan is. I like the way he treats people most of the time. I got frustrated with a woman on the phone today. And when I got off, I went, Dan, that's not the way you want to treat people. What are you doing? Right? So I have to pay attention, right? I don't want to be that judgmental stuff. I want to be understanding. I want to be patient. And I'll keep striving for better in that regard. So that's what the Positive Power Hour is all about. Not about being perfect, not about never making mistakes, but letting go of those mistakes and work towards the image of God.
Yes, doing better.
Yeah, to clean up the rust, to let go of the dark negative stuff that we all carry, right? And to let that go, to cleanse the vessel so that we can feel that sunlight of the Spirit better and brighter and stronger every single day.
Yes.
So, Nicole, what should our audience do? Should they see somebody out there tonight or tomorrow or whenever? What should they do if they see somebody who doesn't have a smile?
Give them one of yours.
And why would they do that?
They're free and
They're
it feels
free.
good.
And it feels good. It makes you feel great and it makes them feel great, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. So there is no excuse for me not being here next week. I promise I won't book a baseball game. Even though we had a wonderful time, I'll make sure we do those on Tuesdays. And we will see you next week. I wish all of you a wonderful week. Take good care of yourself because you can't help somebody else if you don't help yourself.
That's
Have
right.
a great night.
We love you all
very
too.
much. And we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Yes, Kimberlyn, we love you all too. Take care. Bye, everybody.